very much.
Okay, we're trying again, because this time we've actually turned the phone in the right direction. Tonight we're Parasha Vayigash, we're on page 250. And keeping on top of the time, I have a share at 9 o'clock as well. Just to keep on top of that. Let's see who's here. Good evening. Good evening, Avril. Calling in from Israel. Okay. There's a very interesting thing in this week's Sedra. Oh, hi, Aris. Michael, say hi.
Hi, Aris.
Okay, we got another two people have joined over here. Heather Fletcher's here. Aris is watching, Robert, we know. Yeah.
Check your number.
Suri's here. Hi, Suri. We got a lot of people. Bev is here. We're racking up the people. Keep them coming. Bring more people, bring more friends. Okay. There's a very important message I'd like to speak about in this week's Sedra. Sometimes let's start with the following. Our president, Ian Creek, is here. Hi, Ian.
Going home to watch it.
He's gone home to watch it. Why should I should do it here? Yeah, why should we sat around in shul? He doesn't spend that much time in shul ever. Okay, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, actually. Oh, David, you got a new picture. David Mintz is here. He's got a president and vice president watching me. I just want to see if I'm really telling the truth if I give this share. Okay. The Gemara says, we'll start with the following. The Gemara says in Tractate Gittin, when it tells a story about Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. Kamtza Bar Kamtza is a story about what led to the destruction of the temple. I'm sure many of you have heard the story. Do you know the story I'm talking about? One of them had a friend called Kamtza and he had an enemy called Bar Kamtza and he invited the wrong person and he came to the meal and he kicked him out. And they said, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell on you to the government, whatever the whole story that goes along with it. Now, what happens is the following. Stephen's here. See, I promised I was going to say Stephen's. I was going to make a shout out to Stephen. So here we go. We made a shout out to Stephen. Okay. So, what happens is they make their way out. The Jews are now being surrounded. They're being besieged by the Romans. And they make their way out into the Roman camp. Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai makes his way out of the Roman camp. And the Gemara tells a story that he did the Roman fellow there, Vespasian, he did him a big favor. And because he did a big favor to Vespasian, Vespasian says, okay, I owe you one. Ask me anything you want and I'll give it to you. And at that point, he has three wishes. And what does he wish? Three things. Ten li Yavne v'chachomer. I would like Yavne and its wise men. Heal Rabbi Tzadok. And leave behind the family of the Nossi. The family of the prince, so that the Davidic dynasty remains. That's what he asked. And the Gemara there says, Meishiv Chachomim Ochor. The Gemara says that was actually God's way of confusing and confounding him, because really what should have been his great request now at the moment? If you had one request, you're being besieged by the Romans and you have three requests, what would you request?
Let my people go.
Yeah, let my people go, get out of here. Don't you know what, you're gonna just, so some say, yeah, he was right, because if you ask for too much they wouldn't have listened to anything. Some say, well, you know what would have happened? He would have said, let my people go, and they would have said, come on, right, we're besieging the place over here, that doesn't make any sense. We're not going to let you go. That much we can do. And so, sometimes you ask your kids. I remember once I was sitting around a table. It wasn't my table. I was sitting around a table for Afikomen. And the fellow sitting at the table was well-to-do fellow. And he said, so, what would you like for Afikomen? And one of the kids goes, I'd like a laptop. And he just made this face like, no. And then basically what ended up happening is, what did that kid get in the end? Nothing. Because they were so put out by the fact that you asked for a laptop. You can't ask for a laptop. You can't take advantage. Yeah, what would you like? I'd like a £500 present, please. No, you're not getting, if you'd asked for something smaller, you'd have a chance. A laptop, and then everybody says, yeah, I'd like a bike, I want an iPad. And he's like, forget it. No Afikomen presents. That's what it turned into. You ask for too much, you get nothing. And others say, no, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took away the chokhmah, he took away the wisdom from Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai, so that he would not ask for that. And here I see there's a similar thing. what does Yehuda say? And this comes up twice, actually. Comes up once earlier on, and one comes up again over here in the Sedra Vayas and Vayigash. It happens once in Parashas Vayeshev. Let me give you the following scenario. They take Yosef, they throw Yosef in the pit, but they're like, well, we're going to tell our father. So what do? They take his Technicolor dream coat, Ma'ishchatu Se'irizim. This is, if you want to look it up, it's in chapter 37, verse 31. They take this coat and they shecht, they slaughter a goat, and they take this cloak and they dip it in the blood of the goat. Then they throw it on the ground, make it look like it's fallen down. They pick it up, they bring it to Va'avidu Avihem, Vayomru Zos Matzanu, and they say, we found the following. Hakeno, please tell us. Hakisonas binchahi imlo. Tell us, does this belong to your child? Does it not belong to your child? And what happens then at that point? Here comes the interesting verse. Vayakiro, he was able to discern it. He was able to recognize it. Vayom, and he said, Kisonas bini. This is my child's cloak. And now we take another step. And he says, Chayara achalasu. This is the shirt of my child. He must have been eaten up by a wild animal. Toraf Yosef. Yosef has surely been ripped to bits and pieces. Okay, do we have any clear evidence of that? No, none whatsoever.
His imagination is running away with him all.
His imagination, it's almost like his imagination running away with him, right? Why?
It's his worst fear.
It's his worst fear, but also because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him to have this. If he had sat and thought about it, he'd say, wait a minute, what happened? Yeah, it's bleeding, but that doesn't mean that just because there's blood on the shirt doesn't mean.
Maybe you're selecting an animal for food to eat or something.
I don't know. It could be one of many things. But even if there's blood on the shirt, it doesn't mean that he's been killed and eaten up by a wild animal. That's a stretch of the imagination. And now look at this verse. Yehuda makes an impassioned plea and impassioned speech to Yosef. And he says, we came down originally and we didn't ask you anything, and you started asking us all these weird questions. Do you have a father? Do you have any brothers? What's your family like? Like, what's your problem? That's basically what he's saying to him. Why are you asking mishpachology? Are we trying to make a shidduch or something? That's what Rashi says. Shidduch, okay, you understand, you want to make a shidduch, so you start trying to find out who the person is, who his family is, who his mechutanim are. It's funny. Somebody asked me for some advice in shidduchim, so they sent me this resume for a boy. And basically, it says nothing about the boy, and then there's a list, because I think it was part of Hasidic family, there's a list of like 9 mechutanim, 9 different families that his siblings are married to. And I'm like, that's nice if I want to play Jewish geography, but I want to know about the boy. Who cares about who his sister married and where they live? It's absolutely irrelevant.
Well, it's kind of a measure of the family.
It could be a measure of the family, but that's a great piece of extra information. I agree with you, Ivor. It gives me a good idea. But if I want to know about the boy, I won't say, they married the Cohens from Rochester Avenue. I know exactly who this boy is now.
No.
His sister married a girl, married a boy from Rochester. No! What is that supposed to mean? Anyway, so Rashi says, well, what are you asking us these questions for? Who's your father? Is he still alive? You have a brother? Where is he? Bring him down. This is all a bit of a frame-up. And then you say, bring your brother down. And we say, no, we cannot bring our brother down because our father will die if we bring him down. He says, bring him anyway. And we didn't have a choice because we were starving, so we had to bring him anyway. And we bring him down. And our father says to us, you know what you're doing over here. You're taking down the only son that I have left from my beloved wife Rachel. And they're like, we don't have a choice. One of them's already dead. What am I supposed to do? If you take this one and he dies, who knows what's going to happen to me? And then he says, Ve'ata, and now, this is in verse 30. Ve'ata, and now, if I come to your servant, to your father, to my father, really. V'hanar einenu itonu, and the boy, i.e. Benjamin, is not going to be with us. V'nafsho kshur v'nafsho, and his soul is deeply connected with his soul, meaning Yaakov and Benjamin's souls are very strongly connected. V'hoyan will be, kirosa, when he will see, ki ein anav ameis, that the boy is not around, and he will die. V'oridu avanocha sevas avdecha avinu biyagon she'ola, and we will bring down we will cause him tremendous amount of pain into the grave. Says Rav Hirsch, why will he die? Why will he die? What's going to happen? He's going to get so nervous and so worried, he's not even going to ask the question. He's just, boom, gonna go. Right? Why? Again, it seems there's this very vivid imagination that's going on over here, where as soon as there's something that he's not sure about, Yaakov Avinu, he's imagining the worst. And so he's imagining the worst over here also. As soon as he goes, okay, I'm so glad you're back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10! Binyamin's not here! Boom. Wait, let's explain to you, he's not dead. We just need to go down to Egypt. We need to just redeem him. You just come with us. If we were able, he says, if we were able to speak to our father clearly and give him a clear message of what happened, and that we'll be able to get Binyamin back, just come with us back down to Egypt, fine. But we get there and he sees Binyamin is not part of the group, not part of the pack. What's going to happen? He's going to drop dead before we even have a chance to say anything. That's how Rav Hirsch explains it. And what that means is there's a very important thing going on over here. Again, the same scenario as we had earlier on in Parashas Vayeshev, where Yaakov Avinu's imagination, for whatever reason, is going wild with him. And we can discuss why that was, and why HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it that way, and why he was so nervous, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted him to fear the worst. He didn't want him to start asking questions, because if he started asking questions, slowly but surely he would find out what happened, and if he found out what happened, he'd go and redeem Yosef. And the truth is that God wanted the Jewish people to go down to Egypt. He did want that to happen. That was part of the plan for them to go down into that exile. So he didn't want Yaakov Avinu to know. So part of that Yaakov Avinu not knowing was giving Yaakov this vivid worst case scenario imagination. So that's how I understand it and looking at it at this verse. But I think there's a very important message over here. And that's the following. We have to be willing to ask the question, to figure out what happened before we jump to conclusions. Because we can jump to conclusions, but what are the chances going to be if you jump to conclusions? Chances are that what? You got it wrong, my friend. Do you know people that jump to conclusions more often than not will get it wrong rather than getting it right? Oh, this must have happened. Actually, that's not what happened. And if you had given me the chance to explain it to you, instead of throwing something straight at me, instead of throwing the book right at me and getting all upset, then you would have realized that you're making an awful mistake. But you weren't willing to listen to me. You just made your assumptions right away. So you come home. You see something's wrong. Who did this? Why'd you do that? It wasn't me. Yes, it was. Wait. Don't blame people. Call them in. Ask them what happened. See, maybe there's a better explanation for it. Maybe then if you realize that your first inkling was correct, okay, I can understand. But very often we don't wait for that to happen. We just jump to that conclusion and right away say, this must have happened. Don't know if that's what happened. Right? Sometimes it's a mistake, sometimes it's not a mistake. Just last week, I get a message from my bank saying your account is overdrawn. Overdrawn. I wasn't expecting it to be overdrawn. So I look online, and there it is. They've taken an electricity payment of £420. So I called up the company. I'm like, what's going on over here? So we called up the company, and then in the end, it turns out I thought that they billed me incorrect. What is it? Then finally, I called up the man. I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" He says, "Not us. You can't call us. You got to call your electricity company first." So I called them. It was the final bill, and they made a mistake, and they took £310 more than they were supposed to take. So it's supposed to be £110, and it took £420. Yeah, so okay. So there was no money left in the account because my bills account, it's the end of the month. They get replenished at the end of the month every month, and there was nothing left. There wasn't enough to cover that. We'll send you back the money as soon as we can. I'm like, you didn't mind taking money without asking me, and yet it still takes about a week to get your money back, even though they take the money without telling you.
Can you just send me the cash with a motorcycle?
Yeah, that's right. Just put it back in the bank. If you took it out, you just put it back in. But the bottom line is, you see something like that happen, so you could freak, or you could pick up the phone, you could call them. Now, what happens when you call them? Screaming at them and everything, you won't get anywhere. I called them, had the conversation with them. We'll call you back, sir. We're not really sure what's going on over here. They call me back, sir. That was a mistake. We do apologize. We will refund you. The money's come back, due back in your account in the next 5 working days. Fine. It's not back yet, and it's been 5 working days, but that's a separate gripe to be had with them. Pardon? Mirza Hashem, from your mouth into God's ear. Right? So, that's the first thing. Think. Go into things rationally. Don't jump to conclusions, and then you'll be much happier with the way you do things rather than jumping at everybody immediately as soon as you have some kind of thought and goes, I know what happened. Give people a chance. Give someone a chance to explain it. Okay? Next, there's a very strong, there's a medrash that's brought over here that says the following. Vayoma Yosef al Echav, Yosef says to his brothers, this is in chapter 45, verse 3. Yosef says to his brothers, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. Ha'od avichai, is my father still alive? V'lo yachlu Echav lanos. Also, his brothers could not answer him, ki nivhalu miponov, because they were so shocked and so embarrassed from him. That's what the verse says. The Medrash tells us, Oy lanu miyayim adin, oy lanu miyayim atochecha. Woe to us the day of judgment. Woe to us on the day that we will be rebuked. Everybody says, what is that supposed to mean? What is the connection here? And the explanation is the following. Many people say this explanation. But again, every time I hear it, it's a scary thing to think about. Let's look at the whole soliloquy that's being given to Yosef at the moment. Yosef is sitting there and he's saying, I'm going to take Benjamin and I'm going to keep him. And Judah says, you cannot take Benjamin. Don't you realize what a heartless thing it is to do, to take away a child from his father? This poor child, the father, do you understand what the father has gone through? He's gone through so much trouble. And now you're going to take this poor child away from the father and you're going to create such pain to this father. How dare you do something like that to an innocent man?
Double standards there.
Says, yeah, exactly. Explain the Mefarshim. Whoa. Says Yosef, Ani Yosef. I'm Yosef. Is my father still alive? I.e., guys, when it came to selling me, what was the conversation? He's a pain. He is a pain. He's trying to kill us. He's like, no, I'm not. Yeah, he's trying to kill us. He's trying to get rid of us. Forget it. We need to kill him. Okay, let's kill him. Oh, you know what? Let's not kill him. Throw him in the pit. Please, guys, don't throw me in the pit. Please, please. I think I got daddy in the pit. Standing there screaming in the pit, totally disrobed. They took off his dream coat and everything. Suddenly they go, hey, look at that. A caravan of salespeople. In the olden days, they used to buy slaves. That's a great idea. Why don't we make a pretty penny on him? He is a pretty guy. Okay, Yosef, come over here. And they throw in the rope. They pull Yosef out. He's like, thank you for saving me. Who are you guys? We're your new owners. What? Yeah, you've just been sold to us. Get on the camel. Let's go. Let's go. And you came home, and for 22 years you kept this a secret from our father, not really caring about all the pain and all the anguish and everything you put our father through. You just didn't seem to care. And now suddenly you're coming to me and goes, what are you going to do to daddy? What about our daddy? What about your daddy, huh? What about your care and concern for him? Where was that in the last 22 years? Nowhere. Now, when it suits you, suddenly you're playing the mercy card. Says the Medrash, Oy lanu miyayim adin, oy lanu miyayim atochecha. How terrible will it be on the day that we get judged? People get judged for all sorts of things. People will say, they'll come up to heaven. I heard this joke recently. It was very cute. Somebody called up a pizza shop. Hello, it says Gordon's Pizza. He goes, no, it's Google's Pizza. He goes, but I want to speak to Gordon's Pizza. He goes, no, this is Google's Pizza. We've bought over Gordon's Pizza Shop, and now Google is going to be sending you pizza. What would you like? He goes, well, he says, actually, sir, would you like the same thing you've ordered every Saturday night for the last 10 years? How do you know? This is we're Google. Yeah? We know everything. So you'd like stuffed crust pie, extra cheese, you want chips, you want non-diet Coke, full-fat Coke, the big bottle, and 2 ice creams. Is that right? He says, yeah. How'd you know? He goes, well, we're Google, aren't we? He goes, okay. So we recommend that you don't have that. Why not? Who asked you about what I'm going to be having for pizza? He says, well, no. You don't understand. We know your cholesterol score. Based on your cholesterol score, you should be having gluten-free pizza. The cheese, extra cheese should have vegetables on top. Actually, you should have cheese-free pizza. The Coke needs to be Diet Coke. No ice creams. You're going to get a fruit salad. And no chips for you. He goes, what? I take care of my health. Really? Yeah. I have pills that I take. What pills are those? I take pills against my cholesterol, to lower my cholesterol, to lower my blood pressure. This isn't an issue. Well, you've not had them in 8 months. What? Because we're Google, we know exactly what pharmacy you use, and when you've last swiped your credit card to be able to buy those things in your pharmacy, in your chemist. He goes, no, I have other sources of cash. Other sources of cash? We're looking at your tax return. You've not put any other sources of cash on your thing. He says, we're going to have to report this to the IRS. You're going to be indicted in a week's time. Indicted? All I want to buy is a stupid pizza. He goes, you know what? Forget you. I'm going to move. I don't need people with Google's Pizza. I'm going to move away to remote island. No Google, no schmoogle, no looking up to me, etc., etc. He goes, sir, you can't do that. Why not? Your passport ran out 6 weeks ago. Yeah? That's the story with Google. Imagine God. Yeah? If you think Google knows a lot about your life, imagine what God knows about your life.
Scary.
It is scary. Have you ever done this? I do this sometimes because I need to go back throughout the month to see if I've not been on top of my mileage. I need to go back to see where I've been during the month. So if you have do you have an Android phone? Yeah. Who's got an Android phone? You got Android?
One, yeah.
You haven't got one.
No.
You got an Android phone, or even if you have an iPhone and you have Maps, Google Maps on it, you have something called Timeline, where you can look over the last however many. Well, it's got it on for years. And if I said to myself, where was I 26th of May 2014? I can go on my Google account and it'll show me exactly. You got up in the morning, at this point in time you went, it won't tell me everything I did, but tell me all my movements. It'll show me. Got to shul, we're in Presbyterian Hebrew congregation till 8:30, got home, stayed there for 10 minutes, got to this school, went to that school, this is where you stopped off, then you went here, you went there. Unbelievable.
That's scary.
It is scary. It is scary. I mean, it's great to be able to retrace your steps and know exactly where you've been and to be able to do your mileage. But other than that, it's scary to think how much information Google has about you. Yeah?
Do you get the thing where they ask you what the car parking's like? Is it suitable for children?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like, I've been in a shop. I was in a shop and I get a message saying, how's Food Plus?
Yeah.
Please answer a few questions about kosher savers. Is there car park here? Is it accessible for disabled users, etc., etc.? Yeah. It's unreal. They know where you are, and they're sending you questions based on that. And they're building profiles. So they know where you go, etc. So it's like cookies. On a computer, they know where you go on a computer, and all your advertisers. So if you, let's say, you wanted to buy a laptop, and you looked on a website on PC World, whatever, to buy a laptop, then the next day, for the next week, it keeps on giving you adverts about laptops. Would you like to buy a cheap laptop? We got a good deal here. How do you know I want to buy a laptop? Because they're watching you as you go around the web. There's something watching you. It's crazy. It's frightening. They know everything you're doing. God is a lot more frightening than that. Because Google can only try to figure out what you're doing. God knows exactly what you're doing, exactly what you're thinking, exactly where you're going, where you've been, etc., etc. Google can only show me on a map, I see those were your movements. You won't know what happened during the day. God says, I know exactly what happened during the day as well. So you get people, for example, that say, love to learn. Really love to learn. So why don't you learn? So why don't you spend a little bit more time doing Jewish things? He goes, God, do you know how difficult it is to make ends meet? I got 4 kids and have to send them to university and I have to pay tuition fees and I have to pay for their upkeep, and my wife has a very high standard of living, and you know, you'll give God this whole sob story. And God will pull out your credit card statements and have a look and go, there's a lot of things on here that you didn't need to do, that you didn't need to buy. If you're telling me you need to earn so much money because you had to buy all these things for your kids, there's some very expensive hobbies that you have. Ooh, World of Whiskies, £300. Yeah?
Very nice, yeah.
Very nice, lovely. And I see you've been in World of Whiskies at least once a month for the last 12 months. So it seems there's at least £300 of your money going on whiskey. You didn't need to spend extra time. You spend another hour in the office to make sure that every week or every month you had an extra £300 to buy a beautiful whiskey at World of Whiskies. Did you really need a beautiful £300 whiskey at World of Whiskies? Or was that an indulgence? Yeah? Did you really think you had no time? I'm looking at all the times that you just sat there channel surfing. Do you know what channel surfing is?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever done channel surfing?
Just looking for something
No.
interesting. Desperately looking for something interesting. Yeah.
That's right.
There's nothing on.
You sit in front of the television, there's nothing on, and you keep on click, click, click. I will find something that's interesting. Click, click. Sometimes you don't find anything interesting, and you watch absolute rubbish.
I've got 120 channels.
You have 120 channels, there's nothing on. And then not only do you have 120 channels, you have 120 channels, and you have on-demand television. I heard somebody say recently, he said, I think I'm getting rid of Netflix. I've seen everything. Everything on Netflix. I mean, there are thousands of movies. How much time do you spend in front of your screen? How bored can you be? It's not, but that's what people said. Nothing left to watch. 120 channels and on demand and iPlayer, and I got nothing to watch. I remember when we were kids, we had 2 channels in Austria. ORF1 and ORF2. Those were the only 2 that you had. We didn't have cable at the time. Then we got cable and we got this and we got that, but they had a lot more channels. And this was before the days of the internet. So when I was 10 or 11 years old, there was channel 1 and channel 2. Yeah. And if there was nothing on channel 1 or on channel 2, there was nothing to watch. Yeah. And you made do with 2 channels. That's what it was. Today with 120 channels, you have nothing to watch. Nothing on television. Nothing on television. Nothing on television. How can there be nothing on it? And if there's nothing on television, why you keep on moving from channel to channel to channel looking for something?
Pick up a book for 10 minutes, yeah.
Pick up a book, do something intelligent. Watch this year.
Yeah.
I don't know, you could do anything. That's semi-intelligent, by the way. Yeah, you can do more intelligent things. I better sure I'm on there.
That was a Google insert, that.
That was my insert. That was a little bit of, I'm trying to market my share.
And now a word from our sponsor.
And now a word from our sponsor. Do you like this shear?
Yeah. All the people are watching.
All the people are watching, they're like, you know, I'm not watching this any longer. This isn't as intelligent as you think it is.
I bet there's 120 sharing on at any time.
There are. There's a website called TorahAnytime.com, and they have tens of thousands. Thank you, Avril. Avril says, I am watching this year. There we go. At least we got somebody who's watching this year. 2 thumbs up to Avril. Right. But people waste their time. And then they come to God and say, God, you know, I had so much to do in a day. Do you know what it means? I have to run to the office. And do you know how many hours? And then I come home and I had to eat and I had to do homework with my kids. And at that point, I was tired and I just couldn't move anymore. And I couldn't learn. It was impossible for me to learn. And God says, it was really impossible. You spend 3 hours channel surfing every night, watching the biggest rubbish, which you admit is the greatest rubbish. And Ian and Iris are also still here. Thank you. 2 thumbs up for the 2 of you as well. You admit it was rubbish. You come the next day to the office and you say to your co-workers. God, there was nothing on TV last night. Nothing. How long did you watch for? 2 hours. Nothing. Wasted 2 hours. So if you yourself admitted it was a waste of 2 hours, you can't turn to God afterwards and say, God, I was so busy. I was so busy. If God says, look, if you're busy, I'll give you a dispensation, but you're not. We'll take your own words and we'll turn it against you and we'll use it against you. And that's very scary. Because if you take somebody else's word and use them against me, you know, Michael's got his things that he's very good at, and I might not be as good as Michael in those things. And so God's going to say, why didn't you do things as well as Michael does? And I'll be like, Michael's Michael, I'm me. I can't do that. But God's going to say, what about you? Why weren't you the best you? Why didn't you put in more time in whatever it might be? And he's going to ask you, why didn't you give more to charity? God, my finances were tight. You know my finances were very tight. Really? Let's have a look at your finances. Let me open up every bank statement that you have, because God can go through all your... You can log into my bank statements? Sure I can. Let's have a look. What's that? What's this? You're spending all this money. And it's freaky, because sometimes we see this and we get very upset about it, and yet we do it ourselves in our own lives. I know, for example, I've spoken to somebody in shul who works together with Josh Rowe, and he says that he goes sometimes to people to ask them for money for the voluntary contribution in King David. The voluntary contribution, as I understand in King David, is not a fortune of money. I think it's about £1,500 a year. Again, not a small amount of money, but remember, you're getting a full Kodesh program. Hi, Phil. You're getting a full Kodesh program to a good standard in the school. So for £1,500 for the year to have your children going to a Jewish school and getting a Kodesh program, it's not a fortune of money. And sometimes he says, if somebody says to me, I can't afford it, and they genuinely cannot afford it, fine. Do you know what I mean? You can't, not everybody can afford everything. As I said, £1,500 is not a joke. It's not no money. And so if somebody says, I don't have it, you don't have it. But then he says, sometimes we go to people that I've known, they've just come back from a 3-week holiday in Canada, touring the Rockies, with a 68 Reg Mercedes in the drive, and you come and you knock on the door and you say, hi, it's us from King David. Can you please help us? We need money for the tuition. I know you're not paying the voluntary contribution. I don't have money for that. Do I have money? No, I don't have money. Why don't you have money? I'm tight. And you're like, your car doesn't look like you're tight. Your holiday doesn't look like you're tight. You don't seem to dress like you're tight. Your wife definitely doesn't seem to dress like she's tight. Running around with £1,000 handbook. You know, pocketbook. Handbag, not handbook, sorry, handbag. You know, you can get £1,000 handbags. Oh, yeah. And even more expensive. Oh, yeah. Somebody said to me that there are handbags that you have to be on a wait list for 6 months to get the handbag.
Do you realise some of our wives are watching this?
That's all right.
She doesn't know there's a £1,000 handbag.
I'm sure your wife knows about handbags plenty. Yeah. But your wife knows what's right and what's wrong. But there are people that, you know, their wives are running around a £1,000 handbag, and they're running around the newest cars, and they take the biggest holidays, and suddenly it comes to your tuition. Business is really, it's tight. There's just not extra money. Wait, we're getting the new MacBook today? Yeah. That's just not enough money for everything else. And you think to yourself, where are your priorities? How can you say there's not enough money? So I've heard this from people who've told me this. Imagine what you're going to try to say to God when God says, well, where's the money? How come you didn't give more to charity? It was just so tight. Now again, you can never tell from somebody's driveway, and you can never tell from somebody's wife's handbag whether they are or they aren't doing well. And sometimes you have to keep over the Joneses and maybe they don't have the money. You could play this game, maybe you could play this game in this world. In the next world, you can't play that game. God says, yeah, Ian, these people don't want to have Primark handbags. They're buying a £1,000 handbag because that's what they want to walk around with. It gives them status. Ian says Primark sell cheap handbags. They also know these people are embarrassed to walk into Primark. Not like you and me. They'll actually won't walk in there. But that's what it is. God will say, I know exactly what was going on. I know your finances. I know your time schedule. I know your temperament. You say, oh, I was never able to do this. I was never talented enough. And God says, yes, you were. You had enough talent to do a lot of other things. I remember somebody saying, we'll finish with this because got to run out. I remember somebody was talking to Rabbi Shai Klein, who used to run the Beis Medrash. Remember the Beis Medrash that we used to have here just not so long ago? So Rabbi Shai Klein was running the Beis Medrash. And he said he once spoke to a boy in high school. And he's saying to him, he said, you don't really seem to learn Gemara well. He goes, you know what, Rabbi? All the calculations in the Gemara, they drive me crazy. I just cannot keep my head on straight. I can't listen to the Gemara. Hi, Rabbi. I can't listen to it. So he said to him, I says, okay, I get you. Can I just ask you a question? There's about 5 weeks left to the Premier League. Who's going to win the title this year? And he said it was a very tight year. It wasn't like last year, it wasn't tight, but it was a very tight year. And he said, well, there are 5 games left. If Leicester does this, and if Manchester City does that. And he started giving him a whole scenario of 6 different things. If this team does this, and they win this, and they win that, then they will win. But if they lose that second game, if they lose it by 2 points, then they might still win the league if the other. But if they lose by 3 goals or more, that's different. You know, as they were saying tonight about the Liverpool game. Yeah, they were making all sorts of calculations. Will Liverpool continue in the Champions League? Depends if they beat Napoli tonight and how they beat Napoli. And this guy gave him this whole calculation. He said it was just so complicated and so complex, exactly how everything worked. And then when he finished, he goes, and you're telling me you don't have a head for Gemara? You're telling me, you just explained to me 10 teams, all the permutations and combinations and calculations, and who can win if who does what? But Gemara, that I don't understand. That I can't figure out. Okay, I get you. And God's going to throw this at us. And that's what he says, Ani Yosef Achicha Ma'od Avichai. How about me? Did you ever think about Daddy when you sold me? Good question. You get this like intake of air? That's exactly what's happening here. Says the Midrash, if you think it's bad reading the story of Yosef, you wait to see what happens when you get to heaven. When God spreads out your entire life in front of you, and he's like the Google that we spoke about, and he knows everything about you. And then he says, let's have the conversation. And that makes for a very, very uncomfortable conversation. And it means thinking correctly in this world, making sure you live correctly in this world so that the conversation doesn't become too awkward in the next world. Okay? Thank you very much for joining us on this. I'm hoping that this is also going to turn into a podcast. I'm working on making a podcast out of it as well. So we'll see how that goes and where we can put it up. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining us. Those who came in person, those who joined us live, please share this video with your friends to give it as much exposure as we can and make sure that people, instead of channel surfing, watch something halfway intelligent. Thank you.